All right, hi everybody, happy Friday. I hope your quiz went well. We're going to start the next section, which I'm pretty sure should also be review for you. We're going to review mean, median, mode, and range. So the mean is also known as the average, and it's the set of data that is the sum of the data divided by the amount of data. So we always add up however many numbers we have and then divide by that amount of numbers. The median, you might remember, is the middle of the set of data. So it is important that we always have our values arranged from least to greatest. So let's do a little example. If we have an even number of data, then we have to find the mean of the two medians. So the first thing that we would need to do is get these in order from least to greatest. So you can do it while I do it on the board. So now all these numbers are least to greatest, and we need to find the middle. So sometimes it helps if we cross off pairs, so crossing off the smallest and the biggest, and then continue this pattern until we get to the middle. So right now we have two numbers in the middle. So now we need to find the mean of those two numbers. Now 6 and 7 might seem like a simple example, but sometimes the numbers are a little bigger and it might be hard to see what the middle of those two values would be. So something that will always work is we take the mean, which means we add those two numbers and divide by 2 because there are two values. So this will give us 6.5, which is our median. The mode, hopefully you remember, is the most. So this is the value that occurs the most often. There can be one mode, more than one, or none at all. Okay, your mean, median, and mode, they are all called measures of central tendency because they describe the center of the data. So if we talk about measures of central tendency, we're talking about mean, median, and mode. Now we also have the range. So the range is the set of data, that's the difference of the largest and the smallest. So we always take the biggest minus the smallest, and that is our range. So if we look back up to this example where we got the median, the range would be 12 minus 3, which is 9. So we always take the biggest minus the smallest. Great. So here is an example for the high temperatures in the past 10 days. And we want to find the mean, median, mode, and range. So the first thing we need to do is get all of these temperatures in order from least to greatest. So you may work on that as I do it on the board. Okay, they all are from least to greatest. So your mean, you need to add them all up and divide by however many there are. So if you have your calculator, go ahead, add them all up, and then divide by however many there are. So it looks like there's 10. So when you add them all up, you should get 669 and divide that by the 10 numbers. So our mean is 66.9. Your median, so we have to find the middle. So we can start crossing off in pairs, the smallest and the biggest, smallest and biggest. So here we have a situation where there are two numbers in the middle. So remember, for median, we're going to add those two numbers together and divide by 2. So our median should be 67. Our mode, there are actually 2 modes. So it looks like 64 and 70 both show up twice. So 2 modes. And then our range is the biggest minus the smallest. So this would be 75 minus 58. We should get 17 for the range. Now this next representation is usually called a dot plot. So these are wages per hour. Everywhere that there's an X represents one of the employees getting that wage. So it looks like there's 1 employee that gets $8.25. It looks like there's 3 employees that get $6.50. So that's how we're going to read this. And if we want to find the mean of these values, we're still adding them all up and then dividing by however many X's there are. But something that can make this a little better is if you notice, so for the wage of $6.25, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. So we can take that wage of $6.25 and multiply by 5. Then we can say, okay, there's 3 people that are getting a wage of $6.50, so we'll multiply those together. There's only 1 person that has a wage of 7, and there's 1 person that has a wage of $8.25. This will help you just not have to add so many numbers together. And then we're going to divide by 10. There's 10 employees. And we should get 6.6. So if you have your calculator, you're going to be able to type this in just like it is. 6.25 parentheses 5 plus 6.50 parentheses 3 plus 7, etc. The calculator should do all the work for you. So that was our mean. The mode is really easy to see with this graph because you can clearly see which wage has the most X's. So your mode is 6.25. The median, we can still use the same trick that we've been doing. So let's cross off a pair of the highest and lowest. So 8.25 is the highest, 6.25 is the lowest. We have another 6.25 with the highest of 7. Another 6.25 with a 6.50. 6.25 with a 6.50. Now we're left with 2 middle numbers again. So we're always going to add them together and divide by 2. So we have 6.25 plus 6.50, and we divide that by 2, and we should get 6.4. So that is the median. And then our range, we would take the highest value, which is 8.25, subtract the lowest, which is 6.25, so our range is going to be 2. All right, great job. On to the back. We have some more challenging problems. So, talking about our grades. So suppose we have grades on 3 math exams. We get an 80, a 93, and a 91%. And we want to know what grade do we need to get on the next test in order to have a 90 average. So average means that we have to add up all of our test scores and divide by however many there are. The only problem is we're missing a test score. So let's add the ones we have so far. But because we're missing one, that's going to be an X because it's an unknown to us, so we're going to use a variable. In the end, we will have 4 exams. So that does include the X, the one we haven't taken yet. So right now, this is representing the average. We add all 4 together and divide by 4 because there's 4 exams. This equals the average we want, which is 90. Now we have to figure out what X is. So what we're going to do is take whatever is in the denominator and multiply it by the average. So we have 4 times 90. That's 360. Then we're going to add up the 3 tests we already have. So that is 264. We still have the x. We still have this x. So now we have 264 plus x equals 360. The next thing we're going to do is take this 264 and we're going to subtract it. That way these cancel and they go away. So 360 minus 264 is 96. So we would have to get a 96 on the exam in order for our average to be a 90. Okay, so a little recap. You take the denominator, multiply it by the average, we add up all the tests we have already, and then subtract that from the 360. So let's try another one. So this time they're talking about basketball players shooting free throws. So the player made 25, 30, another 30, and 47. We want to know how many would he have to make on Friday for his average to be 32. So average means we add them all up and divide by however many there are. So we have 25 plus 30 plus 30 plus 47 plus x, because that's how many we're going to make on Friday. We divide by however many there are. This includes the x. So there are 5. This represents the average. So this has to equal the average. All right, now we have to figure out what that missing x is. So we take the denominator and we multiply it by the average. So 5 times 32 is 132. Then we add up all the values we have so far. Oops, I'm sorry guys, I got ahead of myself. When you multiply 5 times 32, we get 160. There we go. Now we add up all the ones we have so far, and we get 132. That's where that number was coming from. All right, and then when we subtract, we get 28. So we'd have to make 28 free throws on Friday in order for our average to be 32. Okay, those can get a little tricky, and we will practice more, I promise. Okay, stem and leaf. I think you guys remember these. We're going to make our stem and leaf plot. Now, these are all prices, so they all have a decimal in them. So if you look at our data, they all start with a 2. So because these are all in the $2 range, we can definitely have the value of 2 in the dollar spot in our stem. But if you look closely, the value in our tenths place, it starts at 2 and it goes up to 5. So this is actually what we're going to do for our stem. We're going to use 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, and 2.5. Now on your leaf side will be what's left in the hundredths place. So let's see, the first value is 2.39. So I'm going to cross that off so I know I used it, and I'm going to put my 9 with the 2.3 stem. Then we have 2.47, 2.43, 2.21, 2.33, 2.28, 2.57, and 2.26. There we go. Now, after we do this, the only thing we want to adjust is we want to make sure that everything is in order from least to greatest. So I'm just going to rewrite it and make sure I get all of my leaf values least to greatest. And voila, there's your stem and leaf plot. All right, one last concept here is just the double stem and leaf plot. So here you just want to be careful. You have the stem in the middle. The right side is going to be the same as what we've been working with. Now on the left, you're still going to use your stems first. So this first value here, it's not 91, it's 19. You're still using the stem as the first value and then the leaf as your second value. So just be careful about that. I am going to let you find the values for A, B, and C. So see if you can find the median, the mode, and the range for the different mileages that they're asking for, and then we'll go over them when I get back. All right, guys, have a great weekend. You'll have another video on Monday.